once set it on mute and it didn't record, so I had to make sure. Hello, it is the 27th of July 2023. It's a Thursday, and I'm reading out of Time Out of Mind, and we're coming to a good chapter. This is the autobiography of Joan Grant. She lived until 1989, and she was a writer of her far memories. She wrote books about her previous reincarnations, and I've read 4 of them. We are here in her life. It is the mid-20s, 1920s, and we are at Chapter 8, Lovers Meeting. Being with Esmond was like being in a bright dream, a dream in which everything was more real than it ever is in ordinary living. But from this dream I did not wake to find myself lonely. I shall never be lonely anymore, I said aloud as I awoke to each new and splendid day. It did not even matter that I had no talent for skiing, for when I fell down he picked me up and we laughed together. And with his arm around me I achieved a precarious balance down swift slope, and he lifted me off my feet and swung me around with him when we had to turn. Sometimes I was almost afraid it was all too good to be true. How could my life have changed so completely in less than 24 hours? This is Joan, and I'm going to marry her, Esmond had said, introducing me to his mother. And she, instead of looking annoyed or even startled, had accepted me as though she herself had chosen me as a daughter-in-law. She was beautiful and kind and gentle, and looked young enough to be the elder sister of her sons. Although she's not had an easy life, bringing up 4 boys and sending them to Eton on not very much money after her husband had been killed in the Irish Guards in the last year of the war. Esmond, who was 22, had been 2 years at Cambridge, and then, instead of taking a degree, he had gone round the world because he thought it would be more fun and also more useful to his future career as a journalist. His godfather, who was also his guardian, was going to start him on the Continental Daily Mail, which would mean his living in Paris for at least a year. Joan will like Paris, he said confidently to his mother. We had better spend a couple of days there before the boys go back to school so that you can help find us a flat. Reluctantly, she let the first cold breath of fact blow into our dream. Darling, I'm afraid your godfather would jib at your being married until you have worked at least 6 months. 6 months is the trial period he insists on before he definitely decides to give you a job. I shall work twice as hard if Joan is with me, he said rebelliously. On your honeymoon? Of course you wouldn't. While you are together, neither of you waste a moment thinking about anything except each other. She pleaded with us. My darlings, don't look at me as though I was a gorgon. Someone has simply got to be a tiny bit practical about the future. I know money is a dreary subject, but not having any is drearier still. He put his arm around her shoulders and gave her a quick hug. Sorry, darling, of course I need a job, and I will get one. We shall have to wait until July. Even my stern godfather couldn't possibly expect me to wait any longer than that. What about your parents, she asked me. Have you broken the news of your engagement to them yet? Yes, I said reluctantly. It bubbled out rather tactlessly when I was writing to Mother to say I had arrived safely. And is she pleased? Not very. You see, I told you we had a row before I left home because I broke off an engagement. She says it's positively indecent even to think so soon of getting married to someone else. I suppose one can't expect her to see how utterly different this is until she has met Esmond. But the moment she does everything will be all right. At the moment she does, everything will be all right. She smiled fondly at her son. I expect it will, but it would be only civil for Esmond to make a formal request for your hand. You will be doing well, I think, both of you, if you get Joan's parents to agree to an official engagement at Easter, and a marriage, if he gets his job confirmed, of course, in August or September. She helped us by writing a very tactful letter to Mother, saying how happy it made her to see her eldest son so deeply in love, and how much she looked forward to having me as a daughter. Kirstine and our chaperone both wrote warmly about Esmond too. Kirstine, coached by me, stressed the fact that at last I had someone who would not only look after me, but kept me in order, or keep me in order. I knew the thought of me being disciplined would appeal to Mother, and it must have done, for her replies, although guarded, were cordial. Esmond on a motor bicycle arrived at Seacourt the day after I got back from Switzerland. At first they tried to treat him as though he were only another beau, who need not be taken seriously, but they soon surrendered. "A most remarkable young man," said Father, "and he seems to have extraordinary adventures, which he describes exceedingly well. At least you will never be bored with him, although I hope his idea of keeping you entertained will not include sharing a shipwreck in the Red Sea. I do not approve of Arab doves as a means of transport, and you're not nearly as good enough a swimmer to survive, as he did, for several hours among sharks. Nor would I approve of your getting involved in a bar fight in the less salubrious quarters of Singapore, or in any other part of the world for that matter." "I shall keep him from doing anything really dangerous after we are married," I said fondly. "Men who've had lots of adventures and sown their wild oats are supposed to make the most staid and reliable husbands. I doubt if he is likely to be docile under any woman's thumb, but if you expect to change him, you might start by trying to cure him of the distressing habit of bringing a revolver into a civilized house." He looked severe. "I noticed one lying on the dressing table when I passed his bedroom door on my way to play tennis this morning. The door, like the windows, was wide open, letting an appalling draught into the passage." "I will tell him to keep his door shut," I said hastily, for open windows to Father meant drafts, and a wicked waste of money spent on central heating. My bedroom door had kept shut painted on it by Mother in letters a foot high, as a protest against my selfish passion for fresh air. "I should prefer to die of pneumonia rather than be shot," said Father crisply, and I would have kicked myself for not having warned Esmond of his phobia about firearms. "The pistol isn't loaded. He is a very good pistol shot, and has won lots of cups and medals and things. To him, it is only a kind of golf club or a tennis racket. Tell him not to discharge it here, or I shall be exceedingly annoyed." He blinked at me through his glasses. "Really, Joan, you're becoming appallingly inconsiderate. I will not have my house or my garden or the beach turned into a shooting gallery by any of your prospective husbands. Good God, he will be letting it off in the tennis court next." "He won't, darling, I swear he won't. I will make him chuck the beastly thing in the sea, if it will make you feel any happier." A very sensible suggestion. And see, he does it at low tide, so that some wretched child doesn't find it lying in the sand and use it to blow its unfortunate mother's brains out. I was ashamed that, like Father, I secretly always thought a gun was potentially dangerous, even when it was supposed not to be loaded. So I did not mention the pistol to Edmund. I was afraid he would think I was being fussy. On his last night at Seacourt, the 32nd day since we met each other at Aldermot, we talked about the future, so that we could pretend we were going to share tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. On the music room sofa, we almost managed to forget that he was leaving for Paris in the morning, but neither of us could quite forget it. "We have to remember I shall only be away 6 months, and I'm sure to be able to get weekends off to come and see you," he said comfortingly. "Don't let's spoil now by thinking about the next 6 months. They're going to be utterly bloody, but don't let them come nearer by thinking about them." He clicked his fingers. "There, I've done a magic. The 6 months are over and it is the end of July. We're going to be married tomorrow. Shall we be married here, or would you rather elope?" I hesitated. "I know we ought to give everyone the fun of a big wedding, but I don't think it's going to happen." "Why, darling? I know it sounds silly, but when I try to look forward and see us being married in a church with me in a white tully crinoline with a wreath of orange blossoms and Diane and Kirsten as bridesmaids, it doesn't seem quite real." "Much better not to waste time on a wedding," Esmond said cheerfully. "The moment I get the all clear from the paper, I will send you a telegram, and then you will hop on the next plane and we will be married in Paris. Where shall we spend our honeymoon? Anywhere and everywhere. Years and years and years of it. I know what we will do. It's a brilliant idea, and I can't imagine why I didn't think of it before. I shall be so incredibly efficient at my job that the Daily Mail will agree to let me become a roving reporter, and then we can spend a year going round the world at their expense on the first lap of our honeymoon. I will take you to all the specially beautiful places in which I have dreamt about you. Samoa and Japan, and particularly favourite Mountain and Ceylon. Everywhere will be 1,000 times better than when I saw it alone. For instead of vanishing when I wake up, you will be waiting to enjoy your most appreciative husband. Before I could tell him that he would find me very appreciative too, Mother opened the gallery door and called out, "It is after midnight, children. I'm going to bed now, so I will say good night. Promise you won't stay up more than another half hour." "Good night, Mrs. Marshall. We promise," said Esmond, which was unfortunate, as he always kept his promises. The grandfather clock on the landing struck 1 as he kissed me good night outside my bedroom door. I watched him walk away from me down the long passage, and then turned a corner out of my eyesight. I heard his bedroom door close behind him. I was getting forlornly into bed when I heard a voice. I think it was Jenny's. Say softly but quite distinctly, after Esmond leaves here tomorrow, you will never see him again." So I ran to his room and spent the rest of that sweet, short night with him. That was chapter 8, and I shall read chapter 9 soon.